Hi, welcome back. In today's video I want to talk about how you can move and retire here in Brazil. So I'm going to talk about how to get a visa, how much money you need, how to get a property, how to learn the language, and other things as well. So let's start with the visa. So a couple of years ago the Brazilian government introduced this retirement visa. Now lots of countries have this, but here in Brazil it's quite a recent thing. And the key requirement for a person to get this visa is that they no longer work and they have an income of over $2,000 per month from a pension or retirement plan. Now this $2,000, it can come from a private pension plan, a public pension plan, social security, 401k, annuity, and various others as well. And they even mentioned that if your pension plan pays less than $2,000 per month, they may accept other income sources as well, such as dividends, saving income. So it's not guaranteed, but they may accept that, which may help you get over that $2,000 minimum that they require. Now a lot of other countries, they also stipulate how old you have to be. So you have to be over the age of 60, 65 in order to get a visa like this. But the Brazilian one doesn't say that. So it's possible that for someone who is below the kind of the normal retirement age to still be able to get this visa if they can show that they're no longer working and they have this pension or retirement income. This is kind of a grey area, and it all comes down kind of the discretion of the immigration officer who handles your case. And that's basically the key requirement. Then you just need to provide other documents like your passport, a birth certificate, criminal records to show that you haven't got any criminal convictions, and also documents showing that you have this pension and it pays over $2,000 a month. Now you can apply for this visa outside of Brazil. So you go to the Brazilian embassy or consulate in your country that you live in, or you can enter Brazil as a tourist and then apply for this visa once you're in Brazil. Now some people say it's easier to apply for this visa once you've entered Brazil, because then you don't need to provide evidence of medical insurance. Because if you apply overseas in the country you live in, then the consulate or the embassy will ask for evidence that you have medical insurance for when you go to Brazil, and this medical insurance can be very expensive. And obviously you need to pay a fee to request this visa. It depends on which country you're from, but it varies between $100 and $300-400, and the processing time can be 2 to 3 months. Overall, this visa process isn't too complicated, and I've talked about other visas for like investors, so where you invest in a business or you buy a property in order to get a visa to Brazil, and with those you kind of need to get a lawyer to handle it all because it's complicated. But with this visa process, it's a bit more simple, and you probably don't need to involve a lawyer, unless obviously you want someone just to handle everything. You don't want to get involved. And once you've been accepted, you then get a visa for 2 years, which is a temporary visa. But then after 2 years you're able to convert that into a permanent visa. Obviously the key thing is that you're still earning the $2,000 per month and you haven't started working or anything, because obviously that will be checked when you renew it and convert it to a permanent visa. And there's a couple other things. So you don't need to be fluent in Portuguese in order to get this visa, so they're not going to test your Portuguese. Now I still recommend that anyone planning to move to Brazil takes Portuguese lessons, because you do need to speak Portuguese in order to be able to get around and do things here in Brazil. And you are able to bring your spouse and your dependent children with you. Now that isn't automatic with this visa, so they will have to apply for a separate visa, a family visa, but you're definitely able to get that. Finally, obviously you're not able to work here under this visa because you are retired. Okay, so that's the visa. So it's pretty good. It's not too complicated. It doesn't take too long to get it. So overall, I think it's a very good one to apply for if you meet the requirements. Okay, so once you've managed to get the visa, the next question a lot of people have is how much money do you actually need in order to live here in Brazil. Now I've done a separate video showing the cost of living for me, and I showed that I live on $2,000 per month here in the south of Brazil, but that's for me, my wife and my daughter. So I mean, a retired person or a retired couple, I mean, they can easily live on a pension income of $2,000 per month, that's for sure. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'll leave a link to the video that I did about my cost of living in the description below, but just to say that cost of living here in Brazil is definitely lower than the States and many countries in Europe as well. In particular, housing and rent, food, and also services as well. Certain products, so like electrical appliances, cars as well, now they can be more expensive, but then they're not the things that you're buying on a monthly basis. So food, rent and stuff like that in general is cheaper in Brazil. And just to give you a few examples about rent, so if we choose Florianopolis, which is a nice city in the south of Brazil, it's got nice beaches. There you can rent a 2-bedroom apartment, so you pay between 2,000 reais and 4,000 reais per month, which is between $400 and $800 per month. Obviously how much you pay depends on location, the size, and how nice you want the apartment to be. And then obviously many people want to buy instead, and you can buy a nice 2-bedroom apartment in Florianopolis between 500,000 reais and $1 million reais, so between $100,000 and $200,000. Now I'm talking here about a nice, fairly big city near the beach. But if you were to look further away from the big cities, so more into the countryside, well, there it's a lot more reasonable. There you could rent a 2-bedroom apartment for half that amount, so instead of $400 you could pay just $200 per month. You could easily find a 3-bedroom house or a 2-bedroom apartment to buy for $100,000, that's for sure. And I've done various videos showing you properties in cities and also out in the countryside that are for sale, so please have a look at those if you're interested. Another thing that people ask about is tax and how much tax they have to pay on their pension if they live here in Brazil. So in general, the income tax rate here in Brazil is lower compared to the States and many countries in Europe. So the highest tax rate is 27.5% here in Brazil. However, you do reach that tax rate quite quickly here in Brazil. So you'd start paying 27.5% on income, which is fairly low compared than what you would do in the States and Europe. So I did a simple spreadsheet here just to show you kind of approximate numbers. But obviously you need to consider lots of things, double taxation relief between your country and Brazil. There are specific rules as well, if you're over the age of 65 or not. So there's various things. So these are just approximate numbers. So this shows that if you're on $2,000, which with current exchange rate is 10,920 reais per month, you're then able to deduct some medical expenses, medical insurance, which I've put in here at 1,500 reais per month. So that means that your net income that you need to pay tax on is 9,400 reais. And below that I've shown you the various tax rates and the tax calculated on this 9,400. So in total you would pay tax of 1,695 reais, which is $310 per month in tax. Like I said, there are specific rules, so if you're above the age of 65, then you get some extra tax relief on your pension income. So there are some more rules that can mean that you pay even less tax, but just to kind of give you a feeling for if you bring in $2,000, how much tax more or less do you need to pay. So in terms of other things, so I mentioned with the visa that you don't need to show that you're fluent in Portuguese in order to get this visa, but I do recommend you come to Brazil with at least a foundation in Portuguese, which you can then build on as you live here, because you will need to speak Portuguese in order to, talk to store workers Uber drivers, taxi drivers, estate agents, handymen, because there are very few areas in Brazil where you can get by speaking English. Okay, so I hope you found this video useful. So please leave a like, subscribe. If you've got any questions, leave it in the commentary below. So thanks for watching. Until next time.